Do you ever get the feeling someone has figured out your routine before you even realize you have one? They show up when you do, use the same machines, leave when you leave. And for a while, you tell yourself it's just a coincidence until it stops feeling like one. I started going to this gym late last year. It wasn't anything special, just a 24-hour spot wedged between a closed-down retail store and a pharmacy that barely stayed open past 9. It was quiet, which was exactly why I liked it. Most nights, it was the same handful of people, all doing their own thing, no one really bothering anyone. I'd go after work, usually around 8:30 p.m., and stay for about an hour. Same warm-up, same rotation, same cool-down. After a while, it became automatic. Without realizing it, I made myself predictable. That's around the time I started noticing him. I didn't know his name at first. He was just another face in the background, someone who always seemed to be there no matter what day I came in. He wasn't loud or attention-seeking. If anything, he blended in too well. He always wore a dark hoodie and had headphones on. He gave off the vibe of someone who didn't want to be interrupted. The only thing that stood out was how often I saw him. For the first couple of weeks, we didn't speak. We'd just acknowledge each other the way most gym bros do. Nod at each other, make brief eye contact in the mirror. Nothing more. It felt normal. Then one night, while I was setting up the incline bench, he walked over and asked if I could spot him. I agreed and stood behind the bench while he unracked the bar. The weight looked manageable, but something about the way he held it felt off. He pushed through the first few reps clean, but on the last one, the bar slowed halfway up. I stepped in and helped guide it back into place. He sat up slowly and looked at me like I'd done more than just spot him. "Appreciate that," he said, holding my gaze a second longer than expected. Then he started asking questions about how long I'd been training there, where I worked, what time I usually came in. It wasn't rapid fire, but it was steady, like he was building a profile instead of making conversation. I answered, but kept things general. After that, he started talking to me more. At first, it made sense. We'd talk about workouts, recovery, diet, the usual stuff you expect from someone who lifts regularly. But it didn't stop at that. He began commenting on things I didn't remember telling him, like how long I'd been at the gym that night or which days I skipped. Small details, but accurate enough to make an impression. I told myself he was just observant. Some people are, especially in a place like a gym where routines are easy to notice. Still, there were moments that felt off, like when I switched my schedule one evening and showed up earlier than usual, and he was already there, sitting near the entrance, not even working out yet. He saw me the second I walked in and gave me a small nod like nothing was unusual. But it didn't sit right. It felt less like coincidence and more like I'd shown up when I was expected to. A few days later, he asked for my number. He walked up while I was resting between sets and held his phone out like it was already decided. "We should train properly sometime," he said. "You're consistent." Something about the way he said it made it feel less like a suggestion and more like a plan. I hesitated, then gave it to him. It felt harmless at the time. People exchange numbers at the gym all the time. It's not that deep, or at least that's what I told myself. The messages started that same night. At first, they were normal. A quick, "good session" text, a reminder about staying consistent. Nothing weird. But then they kept coming. Every day, sometimes multiple times a day. "What time are you going tomorrow? You left early today. Leg day, right?" One night, I decided to change things up. I skipped my usual time and went close to midnight instead. The gym was almost empty, just a couple of people scattered around. For the first time in weeks, I didn't see him when I walked in. I was so happy. I got through most of my workout without interruption. No random conversations, no one watching me between sets. Just quiet. It felt normal again. Then I noticed something. His bag. It was sitting near one of the benches, the same black duffel I'd seen him carry every day. zipped halfway, sitting there like someone had just stepped away for a minute. But I hadn't seen him come in. I looked around the gym. The locker room door was closed. The back hallway lights were dim. No movement anywhere. Just that bag. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe he came earlier. Maybe he stepped out. Maybe I just didn't notice him. Still, something about it didn't feel right. I finished my last set and headed toward the locker room. The hallway leading there was quieter than the main floor. The lights buzzed overhead, casting that dull, artificial glow that made everything feel slightly off. Halfway down, I slowed. I heard something. It wasn't loud or clear, just enough to make me stop walking. It came from further down the hallway, near the maintenance door. I stood there for a second, listening. Then I heard a faint shuffle. "Hello," I called out. No response. I took a few steps forward, slower this time. The door at the end of the hall was slightly open, even though I knew for a fact it was usually locked. That's when it hit me. Before I could react, the door moved. Just slightly, and then he stepped out. He froze the second he saw me, like he hadn't expected me to be there. For a moment, neither of us said anything. He just stood there, half in the doorway, staring at me. No headphones, no hoodie this time, just watching. "You came late," he said. The way he said it made my ears perk up. I didn't answer. He took a slow, deliberate step forward. "I waited earlier," he added. That was enough. I turned and walked back toward the main gym floor, not running. At least not yet, but fast enough that I didn't have to think. Behind me, I heard the door close, then footsteps. That's when I ran. I grabbed my stuff, didn't even wipe down the machine, and headed straight for the exit. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was in my throat. I didn't look back until I reached the front doors. I saw a shadow lingering near the glass, watching me leave. Not moving, just observing, as if he knew that even if I left tonight, he already knew my pattern. I didn't go back the next day or the day after that. A week later, I cancelled my membership and told them my schedule had changed. They didn't ask questions. I never saw him again. But sometimes, even now, I catch myself thinking about that hallway, that door, that bag sitting there before I even knew he was inside, and how he didn't seem surprised to see me. Just disappointed I wasn't there when I was supposed to be. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. I didn't understand it until last summer, not in any real way that mattered. And by the time I finally did, it was already too late to ignore it. My name is Lewis, I'm 22, and I've lived in the same small town in Kansas for most of my life. The kind of place people call quiet, like it's supposed to mean safe. Nothing really happens here. Or at least that's what everyone tells themselves so they can sleep without thinking too hard. I work at a small Mexican restaurant just off the main road. Been there 4 years now. Long enough that it doesn't feel like a job anymore, just something I drift through. Most evenings after work, I go to the gym with my friend Colton. Same time, same routine, same machines. It was simple in a way that made the days easier to ignore. Colton is 21, loud, always filling silence without trying. The kind of guy who seems to know everyone just by existing in the same space long enough. We weren't doing anything serious at the gym, just consistency. Something to pass the time before everything started feeling the same. That was normal for us, until it wasn't. It started with Colton's ex, Addison. Everyone called her Addie. They met through a dating app that probably should have never matched them. At first it was nothing serious, just messy conversations, late replies, arguments that never really ended, just paused and resumed like a broken recording. It escalated fast. She wanted to know where he was, who he was with, why he didn't respond fast enough. She didn't like the gym either, especially not me. like my presence there meant something personal. Like I was part of a problem she couldn't control. Things went south when Colton found out she'd been seeing other people the whole time. That was it. He ended it. Or tried to. For a while, it looked like it was over. We even joked about it like it was just another messy story that burned out quickly. But some things don't end when you decide they should. They just change shape. A few days later, things started feeling off. Unknown accounts. Random messages that didn't make sense. Calls that rang once and cut off. Colton laughed it off at first, saying she was just being dramatic. Then she started appearing in places she shouldn't have been. The grocery store near his house. The gas station we always stopped at after the gym. Once she was outside the restaurant where I worked, standing across the street long enough to make it feel deliberate, then walking away like she was done observing. That's when the jokes stopped. We didn't say it out loud, but something changed. It wasn't random anymore. One Tuesday night, we went to the gym like usual, pretending nothing had changed. It was quieter than normal, almost wrong in its stillness. We split up. Colton to the weights section, me to the treadmill. Shortly after I started jogging, I saw her. Addie didn't walk in like someone trying to work out. She walked in like she already knew where she was going. She paused at the entrance, scanning slowly, then locked onto Colton. She walked straight over. At first it looked like a normal confrontation, as normal as it can look in a room full of strangers pretending not to listen. She spoke fast, hands cutting through the air. Colton kept his voice low, controlled, like he was trying not to feed whatever this was becoming. Then her voice rose. She started laughing, but it wasn't normal. It came in broken bursts that didn't match anything around her. People slowed their movement to listen. Then just as suddenly she stopped, turned, walked out like nothing had happened. We told ourselves that was it. One last outburst. It wasn't. The next time I went alone, I noticed him before I understood why. A guy I didn't recognize, hoodie up, cap low, sitting too still near the benches like he belonged there in the way furniture belongs in a room. And then I felt it, that awareness of being watched too long to be accidental. I moved to another station, tried to ignore it, focused on my sets. A few minutes later, I turned. He was closer. "Hey," he said, like we were already in the middle of something. He asked where Colton was. I told him he was already inside. He nodded like that answer meant something else. Then he asked, "How long have you guys been coming here together?" Not curious. Confirming. And after that, he didn't leave. He followed me between stations like it was normal. After that night, things escalated in ways we couldn't ignore. Colton started getting messages again, but now they referenced specifics. The gym, timing, machines we used. Things you only know if you're watching. We started changing routines. Earlier, later, different days. Nothing worked for long. It always caught up. Then came the night it stopped feeling like coincidence. I was at home trying to sleep, windows cracked open against the heat. The backyard was quiet, just insects and wind. Then I heard my name. Not loud, not far, close enough that my body reacted before my mind did. I sat up immediately and looked outside, but saw nothing. Still, it felt like someone was just beyond sight. I whispered, "Colton." No answer. My phone was already in my hand. I texted him, asked if he was outside. He replied instantly, "No." I stared at it for a long time, because it meant only one thing. If it wasn't him, someone else had said my name outside my window. The next night it happened again. Farther back near the fence. Same voice, same tone, like it was learning how to sound real. After that, I stopped sleeping properly. Colton later admitted someone had followed him partway home. That it wasn't just a gym drama anymore. That's when I changed everything. Blocked numbers, changed routes, switched gyms, different routines. Everything was different. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. No messages, no sightings, no voice. Silence started to feel like recovery again. Until it didn't. One morning, I walked outside and saw my car tire was completely flat. It wasn't just an accident, it felt like a cold, silent message left in the driveway, a reminder that the walls I built for safety weren't as thick as I thought. I didn't need anyone to explain what that meant. That same day, I installed cameras. Front, back, motion lights, everything I could think of. Not because I wanted answers anymore, but because I couldn't handle not knowing where it would come from next. I told Colton everything. We agreed to stop going to that gym entirely and avoid places we used to share. Even now, I still think about it. Not the gym, not even Colton. Just that moment outside my window when someone said my name like they had always been allowed to. Most people assume the scariest thing in a gym is getting hurt. Weights slipping, bad form under pressure, pushing one rep too far. Those risks are real. But there's another kind of danger that's harder to notice. It isn't the equipment. It's the person who controls the space around it. The one who learns your habits faster than you do, and quietly makes sure you don't have many choices if you keep coming back. I started going to this gym when I was 24. It was nothing special, a budget fitness center squeezed between older shops that had clearly seen better days. The equipment worked most of the time, the lighting was harsh, and the air always carried that mix of metal, rubber, and cleaning spray. It wasn't comfortable, but it was cheap and close to my job. At the time, that was enough. The manager was a man named Victor, mid-30s, maybe early 40s. Always clean cut, always in the same branded polo with the gym logo stitched on the chest. He didn't speak loudly, but he had a presence that made people straighten up when he walked past. I assumed that was just professionalism, the kind of controlled authority good managers have. He introduced himself in my first week, shook my hand, asked about my goals, and said he appreciated consistent members. It sounded normal, even encouraging, but looking back, that was probably the first time he really singled me out. Not as a customer, but as something he intended to monitor. After that, I started noticing him more during workouts. Not in an obvious way at first, just always nearby, at the front desk when I arrived, drifting through the weights while I trained. Checking something on a clipboard whenever I changed machines. It looked like routine management, but the timing felt too precise to ignore. Then came the direct interactions. He'd correct my form without being asked. Comment on my progress like he was tracking it. Ask if I was sticking to the routine properly, in a way that felt less like a question and more like a check-in against an expected answer. It slowly stopped feeling like customer service and started feeling like supervision. One night as I was leaving, he stopped me and asked if I could stay a few minutes to talk about training consistency. I didn't have a real reason to refuse, and something about the way he asked made refusal feel unnecessary. I followed him. He led me into a small office behind the reception desk. It was plain, paperwork stacked neatly, a monitor, and a wall of screens showing different areas of the gym. He closed the door. That detail stuck with me more than anything else. Then he started asking questions. Not casual gym talk. Specifics. Arrival times, workout duration, machines I used, rest times between sets. It felt less like a conversation and more like data collection. Then he said, "We've noticed your patterns are very consistent." The word we landed strangely. He didn't explain it. I laughed it off at first, assuming it was some tracking system or fitness program, but he didn't react. Instead, he turned the monitor towards me. On the screen were multiple camera feeds of the gym. And there I was, arriving, training, leaving. My movements were time-stamped, categorized, even labeled in places. It wasn't just surveillance, It was organized observation. I asked if that was normal. He said yes, said it helped maintain structure. The way he said it didn't sound like policy. It sounded personal. After that, nothing changed openly. That was the disturbing part. Everything stayed the same, but slightly off. The gym felt quieter when I arrived. Staff interactions became minimal, and Victor was always already present, as if he wasn't reacting to my arrival, but expecting it. Then came the first rule, though it was never called that. He mentioned it casually while correcting my deadlift form. Try not to change your hours too suddenly. Consistency helps keep things safe. That word again, consistency, said like it included me in something I hadn't agreed to. I started testing it. Small changes, different arrival times, skipping days, leaving earlier or later than usual. Nothing dramatic. And every time, Victor noticed. Not immediately, but later he'd mention it casually. You came early today. We adjusted for your schedule change. Always phrased like it was expected, like he knew before I told anyone. That was when it stopped feeling like management and started feeling like observation. One night I arrived late, close to 11 p.m. The gym was nearly empty. A few people on cardio machines moving slowly like they were already gone in their heads. Victor was at the front desk, watching the monitors. The moment I walked in, he turned toward me immediately. He waved me over. I hesitated, then went. He showed me more footage. But this time it wasn't clips, it was analysis. Heat maps of my movements, patterns of repetition, zones I preferred, areas I avoided. My routine was mapped across weeks of visits. You favor this area, he said. You avoid that one. And you always leave after peak hours. He wasn't asking, he was confirming. I asked why he was showing me this. He leaned back and said, because predictability is a vulnerability, and in this space, I am the one who maintains the structure. I didn't respond. After that night, small changes started appearing in the gym. Equipment changed positions between visits. Machines were rearranged. The layout stayed familiar, but never identical. Victor called it optimization. My usual dumbbells disappeared from their spot. They were replaced with near-identical sets labeled differently. Staff said it was part of a restructuring of zones, but only my routine felt disrupted. Only mine. That night I stayed later than usual, waiting for closing. Not to train, but to see what the place felt like when it stopped pretending to be normal. Victor approached me near closing time, calm, unhurried, like he expected me to still be there. You're late again, he said. Not a question. I asked him why he was tracking me. He didn't deny it. He nodded, as if I'd finally described it correctly. It's not tracking, he said. It's structure. The certainty in his voice made it worse. I told him I was leaving. He didn't stop me. He just watched as I packed up, like he was recording the moment internally. As I reached the door, he said quietly, "You'll adjust soon." I didn't answer. I stopped going the next day. A week later, I got a message from an unknown number. "You're off schedule." I blocked it immediately. Even now, I don't fully understand what Victor was building inside that gym or why my routine mattered so much to him. But I understand one thing clearly. It was never about fitness. It was about control. And that brings us to the end of this video. Which of these stories sent chills running down your spines? Let us know in the comment section below and subscribe to Deep Horror channel for more gripping stories like this.